My shitty intro. Yeah.
By the way, I'm pretty tired, so I'm going to be chillbo tonight. No, like, talking like a rapper. Very laid back.
Well, that's good because I have the calm intro.
It's going to be the sultry sounds of Bo's voice swimming in your ears. All right. I'm just making sure the camera's on. Stream health sounds good, so let's just get going. All right, you ready for the ticks, my friend?
Yes.
And not the kind of ticks you find on your pet that get on you? What? I don't know.
Good evening, good day, good morning, whatever it is. This is Good, Bad, or Bullshit. Three guys talking about random topics and providing quality reviews on those topics. We've been doing this since 2013. Initially that was like a joke, but now it's like, it's been a few years. My name is Mike Hodgins. I'm one of your three hosts on this show, along with Mr. Bo Schwartz. Hello, Bo.
Hi, Michael. Hello, GBB listeners. Great to be here, as always.
And our very own Donald Trump, in-house Donald Trump, Crofton Steers.
People love Crofton. Croftaholics everywhere. They can't get enough Crofton.
They love him.
It's true.
We were just talking about Trump. Trump is dominating the airwaves.
The news cycles, the everything. It's funny because we are totally in that era of, and I've lamented this before, I think when we were talking about Rob Ford on this very show, and I totally recognize my culpability in this, but now news organizations have metrics in which they can gauge what are the most popular stories, and therefore, it becomes like a vicious cycle. I guarantee the clicks on Trump's stories are through the roof online, and I know that I contribute to that. I'll go to a site and I'm like, oh, natural disaster story? No thanks. Oh, somebody got assaulted? No, I don't think so. Oh, Donald Trump? Yes, please. Click.
Said something idiotic again. Click. But isn't that the whole downfall of the journalistic profession, that it's now driven by demand rather than,
Oh, absolutely. I don't know how to suggest the solution because I see that problem, but I'm contributing to it.
But the Donald Trump phenomenon is a legitimate news phenomenon. Anyone should be informed that a rich idiot might become president of the United States. That is a newsworthy story.
Hey, I got big hands, Mike.
You know what that means?
Means I got big other things.
Means you're good at cooking. You can cut celery real good. Right?
You can't trust a man with small hands.
So, it's funny how it's like in our political landscape now here in Canada is seems like calm and pretty well behaved, and it feels like people are talking,
nice change,
trying to do things, and it's like, well, I'm like, it's like Canada's like the very civilized, older brother or younger brother of the United States.
Yeah, but think about it this way: if everybody's caught up on Trump this, Trump that, but really Hillary Clinton's probably going to be the next person in the U.S. And then you have Hillary and Justin Trudeau and all this, and everybody will be calm and everything will be regular and blah blah blah.
Status quo. That's what just never changes.
Oh, have you guys heard the theory? The conspiracy theory?
Oh god.
It's not that bad, actually. It's not that bad. So
the Illuminati and the reptilians got
no. The hive mind. No, just kidding. No, the theory is that actually Trump has been a Clinton supporter in the past.
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
That's just
quite a bit. So there's some tinfoil hatting going on about how this is all to ensure a Hillary victory in some weird way. Whether it's, maybe no handshakes were made, but who knows? Trump gets to put his brand out there and Trump gets to be Trump. It's kind of like a reality show has become reality. It's no longer just reality TV, it's reality TV in the way that... And Trump's a master at this. The Apprentice is so good. People love The Apprentice. He's already, he has a resume. On his resume is reality television. And so there's, if you want to be conspiracy theorist about it, Clinton is pulling all the strings.
I'll tell you why that doesn't work. The main reason that doesn't work is the Trump brand equals success. Okay, now that's a brand. I'm not saying it's a fact. I'm saying that's the brand. So if he loses in a general election, as soon as he loses, even when he lost that first primary to Ted Cruz, people were like, "Oh, the luster's off the rose with Trump because now he's got to be a loser," and Trump doesn't lose. But if this whole thing was a giant setup so he can lose in the most public way possible to Hillary Clinton, that would dramatically reduce his brand and how people think of himself.
He's not going to lose, because even if he loses, he wins, and he's going to be talked at. Like, have you not been watching Donald Trump?
He will. But it's like this. That just goes to prove why conspiracy theories are stupid. Like, because they like look the wrong way. They're looking backwards. Like, he's successful now. So they're like, oh yes, this is all a big conspiracy, and it'd be like, who would plan out? They're like, okay, we'll run a big complete idiot that that it's super unlikely they'll become popular, but we know somehow that he will become popular, and that's how it'll work. And they're like, oh, you couldn't plan that because it's too absurd. But that's reality.
Well, it doesn't have to be implicitly planned. The great things about the way humans work is that sometimes like there is collusion without explicit communication of collusion, if that makes sense. Like how coffee everywhere somehow costs $2. Now, like at the place that I'm working right now, there's a cafeteria. The nice guy who runs the place, it's a local thing. The coffee there is somehow $2. It tastes like someone put dirt into some water and served it. It is not worth $2, but everyone else charges $2. Well, the coffee cartel says, let's charge $2 for this shit coffee. And he didn't call Starbucks up and was like, hey, listen, can you raise the price a bit so that I can sell my shit water for $2? They're like, oh, yeah, and I'll give you a cut, It's this silent collusion, I think.
Yeah, well, I think you bought it, right?
Well, I'm a sucker for consumerism, and for Donald Trump, I think it'd be kind of funny. I want him to get to the finish line. Maybe second place, but I think we need some entertaining television.
You spoke about consumerism, and we did that last week, and I realized recently, today I was thinking about this, I did not shit on consumerism enough.
No, I listened to the show, and we did.
I need to shit on it even more.
The coffee cartel, they love Crofton. They're big into Crofton. Croftaholics, all of them. They love me.
We need to get to a random topic, but just one more thing I read today. Another milestone passed. February apparently shattered all the... it's the hottest month ever recorded. And
not the hottest month, the hottest February, you mean?
Hottest single month.
It's not the hottest single month.
Worldwide. Why don't you look it up? There's a Slate article about it. And they said previously...
Oh, you gotta say the whole thing, because where I'm sitting, it's been freaking cold. You're saying...
first of all, you're thinking about an area of the world in which you live as opposed to global temperatures.
Well, people tend to think local until you say, think about this globally, and then say the rest of the sentence. That's why I'm just telling you.
Look, there's an article on Slate. They talk about it, and they said the previous one was January. And they said they're just like, the data's all looking like climate change is going into like overdrive.
Well, I just ran a cursory Google search. I wrote hottest single month, and almost every article says it's July 2015.
Well, just look up Slate. They said it's data that's released like it's being released like now. Anyways, whatever. The point being, I was like,
it's the hottest recorded February globally. That was what Mike was trying to say. And he left out the globally word. I tried to tell him that, and then he said, you small-minded asshole. That's what happened. I'm sorry, Mike. But you're right, the world is...
I just said I read an article, and Crofton's like, wrong. Just read... Oh, wait.
No.
But all that to say, we're going to hell, and Donald Trump's going to be president, driving us all there. It's going to be It's going to be terrific. It's going to be wonderful, terrific, bombastic.
The devil, he loves Trump.
On a serious note, that clown does not give a shit about his country or the future. He's going to be dead pretty soon.
He likes money. Okay, let's do a random topic.
Himself.
This has been a random, rambly intro, as we often
are. But it's good conversation. People like good conversation, and I think we're having a good one.
People like Donald Trump. That's what people like.
Yeah.
All right, then just pull the thing and make it happen. All right, Mike, just do it.
Yeah.
I would. And for all his bitching about global warming and temperature and consumerism, he still burns his diesel random topic generator every week.
Ugh. Well, we need topics.
Well put.
Eloquent.
Okay, the topic today is stereotypes.
Whoa, Mike. Whoa. Thank you.
I had to pull that.
Don't only need to do that once a day. Twice a day, and you might end up with some dead birds on your lawn. So what was it? Stereotypes?
Stereotypes.
Stereotypes. Oh man, sweet. I said, how apropos. I sent out a tweet about stereotypes yesterday.
What did you
It
tweet?
was in reference to Ghostbusters 3. And I'd like to bring up Exhibit A, said tweet, just so I can get it verbatim, because I think it was cleverly written.
He's promoting his own tweet on our show.
Yep. Hang on, it was a good one. I worked on it for like a full 10 minutes.
You got all those characters, right?
So the 3 white characters are scientists, and the 1 black character is streetwise. They busting ghosts, but sure ain't busting stereotypes. Bam! Racist slam.
But Bo, they're all women. They're all women who are
except
stereotypes.
the 3 white women get to be scientists, and the black woman's like, I don't know nothing about no science, but I sure as shit know how to break into a car. And I'm like, what are you doing? You made a movie where you flipped the gender on its head and then ignored the race thing by making, like, why can't Kerry Washington play a nerdy ass scientist in a comedy and get some meth head Melissa McCarthy or Kristen Wiig to play some methed out crazy person and be the Winston guy? Like, mind blowing.
Winston wasn't methed out. I don't know why people.
No, but I'm saying from a comedy angle.
Job.
Why did the black one have to be, the streetwise? I'm from New York. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, that is stereotypes right there in that movie. Watch the trailer.
Okay.
Done.
Well,
so we haven't even seen a movie. We're judging it on the trailer.
The trailer,
have you ever seen a Mike Bay trailer?
Yeah, but it doesn't tell me about all the characters in the movie.
Wait. Okay, maybe I didn't rephrase that properly. Have you ever seen a Michael Bay trailer? Because I don't know what you're talking about, characters and stuff, but it tells you a lot about the movie.
Yeah.
You can easily judge it from its trailer. Okay, but one thing I want to say, it's interesting you bring this up, because as soon as it says stereotypes, it's like, okay, this is one of these topics that's like, sort of a can of worms topic, if you think about it. Because there are all kinds of things, like what Bo just rightly pointed out, I'm like, that's like, things tied up of like racism and gender norms and things like that. But then there are so that's like those are like stereotypes fit into those things, and you're like, okay, like those are, and as Bo rightly pointed out, like we should be busting and stuff like that. That is like totally bullshit. But it's like, oh yeah, the black character can't be a scientist. Like, come on, really?
Busting makes you feel good.
Yeah. But,
okay. Phrasing.
That's from Ghostbusters, you perv.
I know. Phrasing to Ghostbusters. Let Mike finish his thought. The gas is gonna come off.
Right. So there's all that stuff, which I think it's like, it's you got to be sensitive to those issues and try to be aware of them and all that. But then there'll be other things like, so random things will happen where things will like reinforce stereotypes that I have, and I'll be annoyed. Like I'll be consciously annoyed and be like, I hate when stereotypes I have. Like I'll give you an example. So this like
black guy stole my car, eating fried chicken.
Oh my god, that's just racism.
It's not a stereotype.
No, there's a difference.
I was driving.
It's just racist, right? Maybe it's okay. I guess it is stereotyping.
I have a stereotype in my mind that like big men who drive big trucks are assholes. Is sort of what that's a stereotype that's in my head. So it's not like a racial thing or.
Do you mean like 18-wheelers or pickups?
No, like big
SUV. It's SUV.
No, not even SUV. Like a big truck, a big pickup truck.
Okay, like a Dodge Ram.
Yeah, and it's like, because you see these guys driving with like cigarettes hanging out their mouths and like ball caps on, looking like, and then be like, and then sometimes you'll look at these people and be like, maybe that guy's a really like, big softy and he's got like kind heart and he reads like Sartre.
Slate.
Sartre, wow, he's an existentialist.
Hey, I'm trying to bust stereotypes here.
True,
so you think that, And then, like, I'm driving the other day, and someone in the truck, like, someone kind of inadvertently cuts the guy off in the truck, and then the big truck honking its horn, basically drives like a maniac, cuts the guy off, gets out of his car, runs over, start like screaming, fucking, like swearing in the guy's window. And I'm looking at the guy, I'm like, he's exactly how I think he would look, and like just like smoking a cigarette, rough-looking white dude driving a big truck, and I'm just like, I always hate when stereotypes are reinforced, and I know that that's not a good way to make decisions about how people are, generalizations.
Right, but I think sometimes, like, people say appearances can be deceiving, but sometimes they say that because appearances are often not deceiving. You advertise kind of the way you are and in your attire, in what you choose to do, and that sort of thing. That is a little bit of a trickier stereotype because it's based on sort of their behavior and what they're choosing to purchase and what they're choosing to do as an activity. It's like if you say everybody who does this activity, I feel, are generally jerks. That's my stereotype. Whereas when a racial stereotype is much trickier because that's like a person can be wearing any clothes, doing anything or whatever, but your association would be with the way they look. And my issue with stereotyping as a topic on this show is I hate topics that I don't think you can describe all three of the verdicts to in good conscience. So I would love to hear one of you guys explain to me how stereotyping could be good.
Well, okay, I would like to. I mean, I'm gonna have an idea about that.
Okay, I'll let you go first because it's treacherous territory.
Go ahead. Explain.
You're a brave man.
I'm gonna start by saying that separating stereotypes like the one I described of like dudes who drive big trucks are often short-tempered jerks or something like that, as opposed to people of color are not educated in the sciences, which is like racist, right? So even though it's all like stereotypes, like I'm thinking more like stereotypes of like things like that, like jocks, who play sports don't like
Asian people who are good at math. Like they all go,
right.
they do
like
really well in
play
school.
Video games, those. Okay, I'm thinking more about those types of stereotypes, and they're all over the place, and they can cross over gender and racial lines. Those types of stereotypes, right? Think of Urkel as the like black nerd. He's a science nerd. He's not white, It's like he's still, but he still fits those other stereotypes. So, absolutely. Okay, you just said say how these are good. I don't know if they are good. But sometimes what I do think is it like, why do these things exist? Why do, because the phenomenon of stereotypes where we talk about them, we have ideas about them. I have my own stereotypes that I try to question and then I'm consciously annoyed by when they're reinforced. But I feel like if they have a good thing, I'm not saying I'm going to rate them good, but if they do have a good thing, it's probably to be able to just, it's like there's so many people and types of people in the world that you can just sort of like, you need to, when you meet and see people, sort of put them in a basket of something, and I think it's probably just some human way of simply classifying someone when you see them. So like you walk down the street, you see like, dorky girl in a cardigan and glasses, you think like book nerd, and you put her in that category, and maybe I feel she's not threatening or whatever, and you do that subconsciously. And then you see like big white guy with cut off sleeves and double armband tattoos, and you think like maybe jockey douchebag. Maybe I won't say anything that might make him angry. It's just a way to easily make a snap. What it is snap judgments. I'm not saying those things are good, but that we do them. We all do them all the time. And I feel like probably their purpose is so you don't have to get to know intimately every individual you meet on the street. You make these stat judgments, you put them in a category, and then you say, do I want to spend my time with this person or not? And again, I don't know that I'm saying that that's a good.
No, I know you're making interesting points. It's when we talked about power a couple of episodes back, I had mentioned, to use the parlance of Bo Schwartz, that power was a thing, that you couldn't get away from it necessarily. It's always going to be there. There's some level of power dynamics. And to that extent, I think stereotyping is probably a thing as well. And that I think it'd be very difficult. People are always going to make these snap judgments and then start forming groups in their mind and ascribing labels. So can you get away from it? Probably not. I just don't. I guess I'm like, we have a show, Good, Bad, or Bullshit. We look at topics and we try and give it one of three categories. And I just find this one is really difficult to think of in a positive way.
I think you have a point, because when I wrap my brain around because we can laugh about some of these things. Like look, take comedy for example. I enjoyed the comic stylings of Chris Rock. And his stuff is quite racist and deals in stereotypes, and sometimes it's to underscore their silliness. But certainly, in some way, if they weren't there, we wouldn't have anything to laugh about in a certain way. I don't know if that's a weird thought to have, but like the fact that it's something that we can have a conversation about, like it has to do with the fundamental way we work. I think Mike alluded to putting people into categories a bit. And I think that harkens to our more primal nature of identifying good friend and foe, like associating things with specific types of trends. Like our brain is constantly assembling action and consequence and learning from those patterns what happens in the world. So I think the conversation about, racism, and about stereotypes and about prejudice and about, gender biases and things like sexism, like all the isms that have discrimination come from, I'll put it best. I think this way with a personal anecdote. I have an aunt and uncle, love them, they're great people. But, they ended up with cockroaches a long time ago. I think I was 12. They were telling this, maybe a little older. They're telling a story about how they got cockroaches in their basement. And it was because of their neighbors. And guess what? They're Somalian. And they have 8 kids, people sleeping, and they're dirty. And so, never live next door to Somalians, you'll get cockroaches. That's the words that were uttered. Pretty shitty. The stereotype comes in where, as a young person, that's imprinted in my brain, and now I think this about all Somalians. Right? And that's incorrect. That's wrong. And that's like a form of stereotyping. Is not that I have that in my head, because that's actually, it's that you're communicating this idea to people, and people are using that information to form people into groups, and it's either harmful or it's insulting or just untrue. I mean, a lot of us don't like liars. We were talking about Donald Trump just before the show and how he's such a liar, and we don't respect liars. We don't like liars. And it's like stereotype is effectively a lie. That's the whole deal with identifying something as stereotype, as being like, actually, we can't take this for truth 100% of the time. And looking at it that way, I think Crofton has a point that I don't think you could ever say that a stereotype is a good thing, actually. So this is kind of rough.
I'm not trying to be like it's good.
No, you're
not. You're trying to answer my question.
You're just you're doing a thought game. I understand.
So Bo talked about that. First of all, he said a couple interesting things. Like the stand-up comedy one is interesting, because a lot of them are racial humor and stereotype humor. And why does it resonate with so many of us? It's because it's things that you relate to, or that you've heard of, or that you have felt or seen. So it reaches you. Like good comedy is something where you're like, oh, it's so true, is what you'll think, even if it's kind of bullshit or whatever. It's something that you've heard that tickles you because you've thought it, or it's pointing out something that exists somewhere. But then when you were talking about this experience of some relatives of yours making these judgments about Somalians, but it's funny about stereotypes, because what I was thinking at that type when you were saying that was it I have this stereotype that's sort of like uneducated white people are entitled and racist, right? That's a stereotype.
Sure. Right. It's
and I'd be like,
you don't have your high school degree? It's probably a racist.
Well, okay, but now here's the interesting thing: is it so? You also said. And this is really true. The major problem with stereotypes is that it does not work 100% of the time. Like, absolutely, there are people who do not fit your stereotypes. and that's like the problem with them. But it's kind of like statistics, right? So it's like, are stereotypes like 70% true? You know?
Yeah, it's funny because I was thinking about that, and also when Mike was talking, it made me think of a stereotype that I have, which is that podcasters are mostly leftist hippies. And that's just one that I have, and I don't know why. But I agree that statistical breakdown thing is something that it's like it makes you wonder, because Mike talked about reinforced stereotypes and how it annoys him sometimes when his stereotypes get reinforced by actions, and it is true to a certain extent. And you laugh at those, and when I hear the comedy thing, I think of two things. I think The Simpsons, there was like this episode where Homer's watching a show with I think a stand-up comedian on it that was in the style of Cat Williams, where he's essentially saying, white people drive like this, like nerds, and then he's like, black people, they drive like this, and then he leans back and Homer's laughing and crying. He's like, oh, it's so true. And the other thing to that tune was the Chappelle Show, which was always exploring these sort of stereotypes. And there was one episode where he and John Mayer would go around, and John Mayer is a guitarist or whatever, singer, and he would be on his guitar, and Dave Chappelle would be on sort of drums. And when they'd go somewhere with a bunch of black people, he'd play the drums, and all the black people would be into it. And then when he played guitar, all the black people were like boo and didn't care about it. And when they went somewhere with white people, they didn't want the drums; they wanted sweet guitar solos. And I kind of laughed at that because, like, I don't listen to much hip hop music. I'm super white, and I'm into like sweet guitar solos or whatever. So you see that in yourself, and you'd be like, well, you know what? Of the African Americans or African Canadians that I know, they like hip hop music, or they like beats and stuff like that. So like maybe there is a high percentage to say, like, black people like rap music and hip hop.
Yes.
At a certain point, the percentage is probably pretty high that's accurate.
But, like, I would say, yeah, you're onto something there, because probably that's true. But I know a black guy. Well, I knew one. I haven't talked to him in many, many years. Loves country music. Loves the country music. Doesn't listen to hip hop.
Hootie from Hootie and the Blowfish is a country music singer.
Sure, but maybe he listens to, like, I feel like musicians don't count in this conversation because they probably have a more esoteric, relationships with the kinds of music they listen to.
That's a musician stereotype.
Yeah, that is a musician stereotype.
No, but speaking as one, like, I like all kinds of weird things. I am a white person that loves, although lots of white people love rap music.
That's another stereotype.
I would say
suburban white kids love hip hop.
I have no friend in the world right now, like, who's close, that I could have a relatable conversation about my love of rap music with and actually care. Like, nobody. There's nobody that's I can relate to, right? Because I do like rap music, and it's like, white people, they like the rock.
My brother was really, really into gangster rap when he was a teenager.
My brother too.
It was really, really into, and that's so again, and now he gave away all his gangster rap CDs when he became an adult, and was like, what the fuck was I thinking? But the reason is, like, he was fulfilling, like, sort of a stereotype that must exist for a reason. Like, these things don't get created out of thin air. They're pulled based on there being some sort of evidence. The problem with a stereotype is, even if and Bo was talking about his friend Darius Rucker, the lead singer.
Yeah, my good friend Darius Rucker, by the way.
But the problem with them is that, say you have like a stereotype that's 90% accurate, there's still 10%. It's removing or the identity of 10% of people, or 100%, but really affecting the 10% of people. So that's what's tricky. If you have something that's 100% true, like black people have melanin in their skin that makes them more resistant to sunburns or whatever and all that. My stereotype is that black people are more resistant to sunburns, or whatever. I mean, like, at a certain point, that's, that is just true, right? And then statistically, you go back and back until stereotypes could be formed with like maybe 30, 40%. and then that remaining 60% are getting ascribed like an artificial title. So we're removing, as soon as you bring in stereotypes to the equation, and I understand the pigeonholing thing, you're removing somebody's individual identity, and that's what's troubling.
You are, but I mean, thinking again about like statistics and trends, like do stereotypes like I think you can just treat them as a way to snap judge people, or you can treat them as ways to teach you things about the way the world is. So like a stereotype that I hold is like that that country folk or rural folk are like ignorant and okay, let me follow that up. Let me quantify or qualify that statement. Now, I come from the country. I grew up rurally, so I am of those folks. So I feel a bit entitled to talk about it. Then here's statistics like so. Recently in Canada, they talked about how I think just recently more people than not finally believe that climate change is real and that humans have some effect on it. I'm like, okay, that took a long time to get to this state, which was clear, in the 90s, but it took that long. And they pointed out that the divide still remains among rural and urban people. So if you look at, if you go to urban cities or urban places, most people understand that climate change is reality, blah, blah, blah. You pull people in rural places, and they don't think that. Reinforces my stereotype that they're, ignorant. And that's like kind of a pejorative thing. But what you learn from that is that you also hear other statistics, and I've heard these, it's about education levels among rural versus urban. There are like per capita more university degrees in an urban center than there are rurally. So again, you can just judge it and be like, people who live in the country are dumb. I mean, that's not true. Are the education rates lower? And do they just tell you things about trends? Do people who then get education, do they then move to urban centers? That's what I did. I mean, I went to university. I don't live in the country anymore. I don't know. Again, there's like you can use stereotypes to judge people unfairly, or you could use them. And again, I'm trying to play devil's advocate and find out what useful things here. You could let them. You can learn from them trends about things that exist in the world. Like maybe that but people in rural places have less access to higher education. Maybe that's something we can learn from a stereotype.
But instead of that could be learned from a survey. You don't need to go into stereotype because my stereotype is with regards to people in rural areas is that they are likely to be conservative voters. Like in Canada, we have liberal or conservative or NDP. In the States, I'd be like they're likely to be Republican voters or whatever. Like that, they're likely to lean politically to the right.
Isn't that based on some data?
But see, here's the thing. Yeah, well, before I get into that, I will say and I keep saying may or whatever, but if I met somebody from the country who were on a farm or whatever, my preconception prior to talking to them would be that they lean right politically. That would just be my assumption based on a stereotype I have in my mind. Are there facts to back up that stereotype? As Bo mentions, yes. For sure there are. There's polling that's being done that says percentage wise, but it's not 100%, it's not 100, it'll never be 100% of people in rural areas vote conservative, but it may be 65 or 70% do. And so my stereotype, the conclusion that I'm jumping to before engaging somebody in conversation about their political views, I've already sort of done them a disservice, especially if they fall into that 30% that aren't voting that way. And that's sort of I guess the danger of stereotypes. It's there's all sorts of these annoying metaphors don't judge a book by its cover and all that sort of thing that you roll your eyes at because you've heard them forever, but that's essentially stereotyping. Is you have a cover, everyone's got a cover and you're judging them by that. But I think getting back to what I was saying earlier, the covers are either chosen, so we've talked about dress codes and clothes and all sorts of stuff on the show. Covers can be behavioral, Mike talks about driving the truck, but if I see somebody go by in a giant cigarette style speedboat blowing up water left and right, they're engaging in some sort of behavior that's making me judge them. I always say when people are looking to date, if you go to a bar looking to meet someone and you don't enjoy going to bars, well then you're sort of like confusing people because you're meeting somebody at a bar and the only thing you guys have in common is that you met at the bar. Your stereotype when you meet that person is that they enjoy going to the bar because you met them at the bar. So when I see, so those are behavioral sort of stereotypes, things that people are controlling themselves. So making judgments about those when you see them driving these cars or these boats, or when you see them choosing to wear like goth makeup or goth whatever, and having, sort of conceptions about them, I think that's somewhat fair game because they're putting that out there.
You're allowed to draw conclusions based on things you see people do, that individual do. So, like, if such and so throws a 10 cans of beer out the window while they drive by in their polluting truck, you're kind of allowed to conclude, like, well, that guy doesn't care about the environment. What a dick. Like, that's,
Yeah, I guess the stereotype is more if I see one of these big cigarette boats go by and I assume to myself, oh, all people who drive big cigarette boats like to pollute, even though I don't see him pollute. Yeah. Like, maybe that's not, like, even though I'm not seeing him throw out garbage, maybe that's more of a stereotype. But, like, what I'm saying is, like, those stereotypes bother me less personally, and I can almost see how there's no getting away from them than stereotypes about sex and gender that people cannot change.
Sure. Like that our community thrusts upon them in our popular culture and the signs that we have all around us, like gay people behave a certain way, right? Like that's a big one. I know gay people. None of them act like the way they're portrayed in any movie or whatever the story. Like very rarely. With
I
some
know
exception,
gay people, and some of them do.
Some of them do, but that's the point. Is some of them do, some of them don't. Enough. And like, it's not like 80-20. It's like 50-50. Like,
but it really but again, it depends which one you're talking about. Like some, like I have this stereotype in my head that people who drive BMWs are douchebags.
We're gonna go through Mike's stereotypes. By the end of the show, it's like I have a stereotype in my head that everyone who listens to this podcast are fucking idiots.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. They're obviously.
Well, that's not my stereotype. I think you guys are lovely and wonderful. So,
but it's one. But I think the thing with stereotypes, like if you think about them, if you don't just let them be knee-jerk reactions, like I like to think I'm aware of my stereotypes. When I so like I see a BMW go by and it's like. Or goes through some puddle and splashes me and my toddler, and I'm like, damn BMW driver, entitled son of a so-and-so. I know for a fact that not all BMW drivers are assholes, and it's like, but again, these are like, it's like trends, right? And I think that, I just want to say one more thing before we get to verdicts. I know we should get to it soon. I had a conversation fairly recently. I brought up a few times my former roommate, Emma, who's like this academic person.
Hello, Emma.
Hello, Emma.
Hey, Emma.
She listens sometimes. I don't know if she's...
Oh, we like Emma. Emma's smart. Emma's much smarter than the three of us combined.
She's very smart, but she points out interesting things.
And a great officiant, too, I might add.
Yeah, she was the officiant.
She's not smarter than me. Nobody's smarter than me. I'm the smartest.
Yeah. So, okay, she was telling me something about... I'm sure I'll butcher this. But essentially, this is like I think what outlines the problem of stereotypes, because I think we talked a little bit trying to find what might be good about them, and I think it's a useful tool in the sense that it allows you to snap judgments or whatever to place things in categories to just sort of get through life. You can't meet and talk to every individual and get to know them, blah blah blah. But she pointed out to me that sometimes what people do that's a problem is apply something which is useful structural thinking to an individual. So trends or things which are 70% true are useful in some context, right? If you say like rural people have lower, education rates than urban people, that might be useful information. It might fit a stereotype. That might be useful. That might be even a good thing to know that. If you meet a rural person and you're like, you're an idiot because you're applying a structural norm or something that might be useful from a statistical point of view or a cultural point of view or something like that you might learn something from the world, and you're applying that to an individual. And that's never fair, and I think we all know that, and I think that's why we all think probably these things are not good. But I think that's the basic thing, and that's why this is a hard issue to rate, because clearly everyone has stereotypes, and everyone probably can question their own stereotypes and understands that they're not always true, but yet we all have them still. So they serve some purpose. But again, I think the problem is when you meet an individual, judging them or judging the individual on a structural view of a thing you're thinking about. And so, I mean, again, I don't know which way I'm going to land yet on verdicts, but this is a much, I said, it's a can of worms topic, and I really think it is, because it's just not cut and dry.
All right, well, let's bring in the farm animals in. Crofton, you got anything else left in the tank?
No.
All right, come on in, farm animals. Get in here. Yep. Betsy, you go over there.
The farm animals, they love Crofton.
Johan, over there.
Order, I say. Order in the court.
All right, and as you can see, the bailiff man, because we're the judge. Whoa, what? Shh, quiet, sheep. Shh. All right, I don't have things under control today.
That kazoo player.
Yeah, we're gonna have to replace that kazoo player. You know,
I hired tons of kazoo players.
You know, she is from Portugal, and you know the Portuguese, they don't listen to instructions too well, right? Am I right? I'm kidding. That's an example of kind of racism stereotyping. Anyways, I'm gonna go up first because this is pretty easy. Mike made a face when I said it's gonna be easy. He's like, "Will it be 5 minutes or will it be 15 minutes?" I don't know. No, it's clearly stereotyping is a thing that like occurs, and I think it occurs even when I think about trying not to do it. I still end up falling victim to patterns of thought which are indicative of a stereotype or of even racist or discriminatory stuff. And I try and pride myself on being a good person in that regard. But I still fall victim, so I always feel like the effort you put into not thinking like that is like the effort you put into not being stupid. Like, I'm going to try and be smart and think about things in a more in-depth way than to fall victim to very simple definitions out of laziness of thought. So I'm just going to go ahead and say stereotypes are bad. Like, bam, biggity bam, bad. Bad, go to your room. Bad. All right, I'm done.
I can see... I'll go next. I could see how you can make legitimate arguments for bad and for bullshit. Like, honestly, I mentioned at the top, I find it difficult, and I continue to find it difficult to argue that stereotypes are just good. And we had a pre-show conversation about Donald Trump. Donald Trump's been on everybody's minds right now. But as he's an example of a politician, and I use that word in quotation marks, that has exploited the politics of stereotyping to such a degree that his popularity is through the roof amongst certain voters, and I think that like some things he says outright and they're clearly racist. Some things he infers extremely heavily, but stereotyping is one of those things that I think, like a lot of the topics on the show, will always be there and you can't get away from, and then it becomes a matter of what do you do with it. And I know that I have stereotypes, and Mike was very forthright about his numerous stereotypes, and I have stereotypes as well, I just think like I can't just turn them off, and some of them are founded, some of them maybe not so much, and like Mike, I don't like to be necessarily have them reinforced because it makes me feel like I'm engaging in some sort of group thing. But I will say that by and large, where stereotypes scare me the most is getting back to that Donald Trump example, where they start bleeding into how we decide things and how we elect our leaders and how we make decisions about large-scale issues by going with the gut and our gut feeling about certain groups. It also allows you to qualify people as the other easily. And as soon as you do that, you start seeing enemies everywhere. And that's not always going to be the case. There are some like little useful things. We are always going to be putting people into groups, and some people wear their hearts on their sleeves with clothes, with behavior, or whatever. And I always reserve the right to have opinions about those people. But I don't think that stereotyping writ large is very useful. So for that reason, I am going to agree with Bo, and I'm going to say stereotyping is bad.
Nicely done, dropping a large writ or a writ large
Crofton
in
just
there.
reinforced one of my stereotypes I have about government workers who don't really know what they're talking about, so they say writ large a lot. That's a stereotype I hold. Is it always true?
You know,
No.
Crofton's the only one I ever hear say writ large. It's
Because you didn't work in the government that long. I heard it
Crofton,
all the
do
time.
other people say it? Don't lie to me, because I just assumed writ large was like
yes.
your thing. You know how like I say this is a thing, you say writ large because tell me that's you. Tell me, baby.
I have a prejudice, which is that I presume, I guess, that whenever I deliver my verdict before Mike's, he'll find some way to shit on it before moving to his verdict.
Yeah, it's a stereotype.
Well,
Stereotype.
well, that's just a personal type because
Yeah,
it's
whatever. Okay, I still find this a hard one, and you know, the obvious verdict to give is that they're bad for, I think, reasons that we went into. Again, it's judging an individual by a group standard or whatnot. I still don't know what I'm going to say. This one I'm actually having trouble with this one. Again, like stereotypes are interesting because they're as much as we might not want to admit it or look inwardly, there are truths related to stereotypes. And this is not because of things like race or gender or whatever. It's more culturally based. I think it's the fact that as human beings, we belong to certain groups, and we talked about stuff on this podcast before, things like dress codes and behavior patterns, and those are what we do to display and signal to other human beings that, like, I'm part of this group. Hey, you're one of my people. I'm one of your people. That's a thing. That's cultural. That's what humanity is all about. We're all in our different little kind of tribes, and some would join willingly, some would join otherwise. And what those things do is reinforce stereotypes. And is it good? I know, because for every stereotype there's someone who busts that stereotype. Yeah. Are they bad? I don't think that they are, because I think that they're what they are, again, is they're communication devices. I mean, and I'm separating this a little bit from racism, which was a super broad kind of stereotype. But culturally speaking, and for more subgroups, like hipsters have sleeve tattoos and wear plaid. That's a stereotype, and it's like it often holds true. Is it always true? No. So to me, this is one of these things that's pretty clearly bullshit. It's not always nefarious to have stereotypes. It sometimes is, and it sometimes isn't. So yeah, I just think this is one of these things that's clearly bullshit. Be aware of it. Be aware of it. Question your stereotypes, but you're never going to get rid of them because, we all live in the world.
Man, I also have a personal type about Michael, that he doesn't stop talking when it's the time for the sound to go and when he makes his big speech. It was a good verdict, though.
I thought I said something interesting.
Yeah, you did.
I didn't.
No,
You
did all right.
Well, listeners, if you want to tell us why we broke or reinforced your stereotypes about awesome podcasters, or one, awesome podcasters, and two, carry hang-ons, you can decide who the hangers-ons are.
The people love Crofton.
But we would like to hear what you have to say. So you can get in touch with us. You can send us an email at goodbadbull@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We read your email on the air if you send us one. You can send us a tweet at goodbadbull. And if you just like listening to the show and hanging out and hearing us jabber about things, then we love that you do that too. You can like us on Facebook. You can subscribe on Stitcher, iTunes, and you can find out all the info about the show at goodbadbull.com. Thanks for listening. And but more individually speaking here, Bo, if our listeners want to learn more about you, have you break their stereotypes, where would they do that?
You know what? They could probably find me reinforcing my stereotypes as much as breaking them on my Twitter account at Bo Schwartz. And I also want to mention one other little thing too. I'd love it if you would go to iTunes right now and give us a 5-star review on there, because that does help with visibility. If you like the show. If you don't like the show, you don't ever have to listen to it again. But we do the show for free, and if you want to find a way to give back to us in a way that's meaningful, that one simple act would be a big thing to give back to us. It would mean a lot to me.
I'm sure someone's going to be like, "Ooh, I hate Mike so much," or one of us for our opinions. I'll never give them a 5-star.
Also, just quickly before we let Crofton do his thing, because he's got to prep a good little piece that he's going to work on.
Everyone waits for Crofton.
We actually had 2 copies of Good, Bad, or Bullshit in the iTunes store. Because of a recent update that is long overdue from Apple, we were actually able to combine it into one. It was just a mistake I made early on, and we had a main one, but if in case you somehow got unsubscribed, just put the word out that they can resubscribe to the one that matters, which is there. And my mom has a 5-star review on that one, so you know it's the right one.
Yay!
All right.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. Also, find me at Bo Schwartz again.
Bo Schwartz. And Crofton Steers, where can people find out about all your bombastic opinions?
First off, I'm really rich. I'm richer than all the other people on the show put together. And they can find out more about me and my money at Crofton Steers, because people love me. They love me. They love Crofton.
I'm never wrong. And you can follow my dead Twitter feed at ML Hodgins.
By the way, I have to chastise you. I added both of you about our last episode yesterday. No interaction from either one of you. It's like I tweeted into nothing, even though I was socializing with
tweet. I saw an email saying that I had a tweet. I didn't click on it.
I was busy getting into a feud with Kanye.
Incidentally, you guys, since we're talking about stereotypes, you guys fit the stereotypes of 30-something white dude who loves video games and grew up in the 90s. Stereotype.
Yeah.
Not busting it.
Is that
forcing it?
What are the things people think about us, though, that are like we have small penises or something? Like
no, that you stay at home all the time and play video games, and it's true.
That sounds like a Mike Hodgins stereotype.
I stay at home sometimes and don't play video games. I might be playing my guitar. I might be doing a podcast or 3 with my friends.
That's another thing I associate with mid-30s.
I might be watching guitar. An awesome BBC drama on Netflix by myself.
That's something else I associate with white mid-30s people.
Yeah,
Netflix.
White mid-30s dudes.
You get what I'm doing as a joke. It's like I like that you're explaining my bit as I'm delivering the bit. I think that we make a good duo.
Well, but
it's also a very white person thing to do.
Crofton, one time was some website or something you were talking about. It was like things white people like.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you read through them and you're like, it's funny, and it's just like Chris Rock humor. It's like.
Or Dave Chappelle,
whatever. And it's like about white people, and it's kind of funny, you know. It's like white people like Star Trek, and it's like it's true.
Part of it, though, is I guess is that there's probably certain black people that like Star Trek as well.
Yeah, that's so wrong.
But it's just overwhelmingly white, like in terms of interest. Like if you go to those expos,
because most of us in this country are white.
No, that's not accurate.
That's not the reason why.
You can like something without going to its convention. Come on.
I don't know. Like when I think
Star Trek is majoritarily a white person's love.
When I think of Weird Al Yankovic's song "White and Nerdy," where I'm like laughing through the whole thing about because it's all stereotypes about white people, and it's super funny. Like spend every weekend at the Renaissance Fair, and I'm like it's only white people that go to the Renaissance Fair. I'm like.
Maybe.
MC Escher is my favorite MC.
Because of stereotypes, there are black people and Chinese people that want to go, but feel out of place because everyone stares at them when they go there and stuff, and they just feel like, maybe that because that's a stereotype you have, but about everybody, like all the different races. About
people like laughing at their own stereotype much more than they like laughing at other people's stereotypes.
You feel entitled to laugh at your own stereotype.
It's not just that though; it's that you've.
No, I don't know. You ever hear Chris Rock talk about black people and then the N words? Because he's talking about He's not talking about white people, and it's still funny. That's the point.
The comedy is all about how relatable it is to you. So I mean, if you read a comic or you hear a comic for that matter that is talking about things that appeal to you, and that's where sort of the Jerry Seinfeld stuff, like what's the deal with airplane food? Like it appeals to everybody kind of, or many people can relate to it. The more niche you get, the funnier it is, but to that group of people the most. And so for me, it's like when there are jokes about white people and stuff, white people, like, I find that way more hilarious than when they start doing, even though guys like Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle are really funny about doing sort of humor about black people. It's, for me, what I find funny is just when they are doing humor on white people. When, like, Dave Chappelle is making fun of white people, I find that hilarious, whereas him making fun of black people, I can't identify as much because I'm not a black person. I'm assuming they find that funny.
The funniest Dave Chappelle part about that race was the game show I Know Black People, and there's like a bunch of white contestants, and they're like, "Is pimpin' easy?" And like, it's white person one. He's like, "No." And it's like white person two. He's like, "No, man." And he's like, "Yeah, the answer's right. Ding. Is pimpin' easy?" And then the third person, they had like 6 people answer the question, no. And then there's a black guy. There's the next contestant. It's like the 7th one they're showing. And they're like, "Is pimpin' easy?" And the black guy's like, "Hell yes." And they're like, "Ding. Strangely, that's somehow right, too."
Yeah,
it's so good.
It's funny that we're like all this stuff, and like again coming back to stereotypes and being like, oh, because again it's like you're laughing and it's like it's so true is what you always want to say with some of this comedy. And another one which is newer to me is like parent humor, or like stand-up comedians who like talk about raising kids, and it's pretty funny. And talk about stereotypes about being a parent, and now I understand those much more. And a lot of them, again, are sort of true about stereotypes. It's like, oh, you're a parent, you go to bed at 9 o'clock every night. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of true. I'm like, God damn, I'm up early every day. These things are trends and norms. They're not necessarily always bad or good. Sometimes they just are. And sometimes they're nothing, but they're still a trend or a generalization. Not always true. Not all parents go to bed at 9, but a lot of them do. Whatever.
It's when you start doing stuff like if you turn it into a verb, stereotyping, instead of just stereotypes, it becomes even kind of more nefarious.
It's like what you do on a Friday. Hey guys, you guys want to go out stereotyping on Friday night?
I went on vacation to stereotyping. It was great.
I can't. I'm home playing video games.
Yeah, you were so white.
I had Pepsi.
That's why how you guys got so white by
I got some Pepsi going, and I had some pizza for supper. Just getting it down.
Pizza and Pepsi is like the whitest thing ever, too. By the way.
Sweet.
I think
I'm white.
I don't know.
All right. I guess.
All right. God. So yeah, I'll cut it off at some point if you're watching the VOD or you happen to be tuned in the live stream at youtube.com/goodbadbullshow, like Mr. Show, except Good Bad Bull Show. Thanks for tuning in and watching that stuff. We really appreciate it. Do you have any secrets you want to tell our video listeners, Crofton, that didn't listen to the audio version to make it worth their while to have traversed the 50 minutes of video footage to get to this point in the podcast?
Thanks for listening.
That was weak. Mike, do you have any treasures for our listeners?
I don't know if this is related to stereotypes, but I was thinking about...
Oh, you want to keep talking? No, treasure. Treasure's fun to find.
No, it's about it was about something Crofton always talks about in wrestling called cheap pops, and how politicians use them all the time too. It's Trump when he was in Florida. He's like, "It's great to be here in Florida," and everyone's like, "Woo,
that's where I am."
It's like it's so cheap and stupid.
Yeah,
but
Floridians love Trump.
All right. Well, on that note, thanks for tuning into the video, and we'll see you next time.
They love me. The Latinos love me.
The Latinos love Mike and Crofton.
Penis sucking.